The twin suns were setting over the quiet colony world of Varenzyx. Their light stretched across the hills, painting the silver grass in shades of gold and red. The wind carried a soft hum through the valley, passing over the metal structures of the small research outpost. Humans and aliens worked side by side here, studying how to make this distant planet suitable for life. Among them was Ryan, a human engineer, and Tira, an alien biologist from a water world far across the stars. Ryan had been on Varenzyx for almost a year. Life here was simple but tiring. The days were long and the nights cold. He spent most of his time fixing energy grids, water pumps, and the weather towers that kept the base running. His hands were often covered with dust and metal oil, and his uniform always smelled of the desert wind. But lately, his work had become a little brighter because of one person, Tira. Tira was unlike anyone Ryan had met. Her people, the Moran, were known for their calm voices and fluid movements. Their skin shimmered softly, like water catching light. When she walked, it was as if gravity treated her differently, letting her glide across the ground with quiet ease. She did not talk much, but when she did, every word felt deliberate, full of thought. Ryan often found himself slowing down just to listen to her. They had been assigned together to repair the colony's old water filtration system. The machine sat beside a small lagoon. It's one of the few natural water bodies on Varenzyx. It was deep, clear, and surrounded by strange plants that glowed faintly in the evening. The locals called it the Mirror Lake because its surface reflected the sky so perfectly that it felt like another world below. Ryan liked working near that lake. It reminded him of home. On Earth, he used to visit rivers and beaches with his friends, swimming for hours under the sun. Here the water was cold and alien, but still beautiful. He would sometimes sit near the edge during breaks, skipping small stones across the surface and watching the ripples fade into the reflection of the twin suns. One evening, as he packed his tools, Ryan noticed Tira standing by the water. She had finished collecting samples and was watching the ripples dance. Her reflection shimmered like liquid glass. Ryan hesitated for a moment, wondering if he should disturb her quiet. Then, deciding there was no harm, he walked closer. "Long day, huh?" he said, placing his toolbox beside him. Tira turned slightly. Her large, pale blue eyes blinked once, then she nodded. "Long, yes. But productive. The filters are running again." Ryan smiled. "Yeah, we make a good team." "Ah!" She tilted her head, considering his words. "You work with patience," she said softly. "Humans usually rush." Ryan chuckled. "That's one way to say, I'm slow." Tara's mouth curved in what he thought was a faint smile. Slow is not always bad. They stood in silence for a while, watching the water. A few glowing insects hovered over the surface, leaving thin trails of light behind. The air smelled faintly of iron and something sweet, like the scent after rain. Ryan thought the scene was almost peaceful enough to forget he was on a strange planet light years from Earth. Then an idea formed in his mind, simple, harmless, but perhaps a way to know her better. "Hey," he said after a pause. "Have you ever gone swimming here?" Tira looked at him, her expression unreadable. "Swimming?" "Yeah," Ryan said. "You know, going into the water, it's deep enough. Feels good after a long day." She blinked again, clearly puzzled. "Humans enter water for comfort?" Ryan laughed lightly. "Sometimes. It helps clear the mind. You said you're from an ocean world, right? I figured you'd love water." Tira lowered her gaze to the lake. "The water here is different. It is quiet, still, and heavy. My home waters move, sing, and carry life." She paused, touching the surface gently with her fingers. "But perhaps I could try?" Ryan brightened at that. "Really? It's safe, I promise. I tested it before. No strange creatures hiding below." She gave a soft hum. Not quite agreement, but not refusal either. "You wish for me to join you?" He shrugged, smiling. "Why not? You've been helping me all week. Consider this a break." Tara studied him for a moment longer. There was curiosity in her eyes now, mixed with hesitation. "I will think," she said finally, then turned back toward the base. That night, Ryan couldn't stop thinking about her answer. He wondered what life must be like on her world-endless oceans. Glowing coral cities, creatures that danced through light currents. He imagined her swimming effortlessly, her skin blending with the waves. The thought made him realize how little he truly knew about her kind. Humans had only met the Marin 2 decades ago. Yet they still remained a mystery. The next day, they worked side by side again. The repairs went smoothly, and Ryan decided not to push the subject. He didn't want to make her uncomfortable. But just before sunset, Tira turned to him and said quietly, "If you still wish to swim, I will join." Ryan blinked in surprise, then grinned. "You sure?" She nodded. Curiosity is part of learning. They finished their tasks quickly and walked toward the lagoon. The light was soft now, the air cool. Ryan removed his outer jacket and boots, leaving only his base clothes on. Tira stood near the edge, still as stone, watching the water reflect the sky. Ryan could tell she was nervous, though she didn't show it openly. He stepped into the water first. It was cold, but not unbearable. "See," he said. "Not bad?" Tira slowly stepped forward. When her feet touched the water, she inhaled sharply. Her skin shimmered faintly, and a few small ripples formed around her legs. "It feels strange," she whispered. "Strange good or strange bad?" Ryan asked, treading in place. She tilted her head. "Strange." "Alive?" Ryan laughed. "That's one way to describe it." For a while, they swam side by side. Tara moved with natural grace, her body cutting through the water smoothly, as if she belonged there. Ryan followed clumsily, splashing more than he intended. She noticed and smiled faintly again. "You swim with effort," she said. "Story of my life," Ryan replied, grinning. "I have to work for everything." They reached the deeper part of the lagoon, where the bottom vanished into dark blue. Ryan floated on his back, looking up at the sky. The first stars were beginning to appear, small dots in the fading light. "You know," he said, "when I was a kid, I used to think stars were holes in the sky, like someone poked it so we could see the light behind." Tira floated nearby, her eyes following the same stars. "On my world," she said softly, "we see the stars through water. They look like silver rain. My people believe they are echoes of distant seas." Ryan turned his head toward her. "That's beautiful." "Maybe," she said, "but they are far away. We can never reach them." Ryan smiled faintly. "Maybe one day." They swam quietly for a while longer, the water calm and reflective. But as the temperature dropped, Tira suddenly frowned. Her hand brushed the surface, and a faint glow pulsed around her. Ryan noticed it too. "What's that?" he asked. "My body reacts to water," she explained calmly. "It reads it. The light tells me what lives within. Anything dangerous?" "No," she said, "only unfamiliar." Ryan nodded, relaxing again. "Guess that's both of us. Unfamiliar to this place." Tira looked at him for a long moment, then said, "You humans are strange. You leave your home to live on worlds that do not welcome you. You fight the cold, the heat, the air itself. Why?" Ryan thought for a moment. "Because we like to see what's out there. We want to make things work, even if they're broken." She seemed to consider that answer carefully. "So you repair not only machines, but worlds." "Something like that," he said with a grin. "Maybe people too." A faint sound came from the shore, an echo of wind moving through the reeds. The water rippled, and Tira looked toward it, sensing something Ryan couldn't. "The lagoon listens," she murmured. "It remembers what?" "Everything that touches it," she said. "Every motion, every voice. Water keeps memory." Ryan blinked. "I didn't know that." "Few do," she said softly. "You hear only the surface." Ryan watched her, fascinated. She seemed so calm, yet full of quiet wonder. The glow around her faded as the night deepened, and the lagoon turned still again. He felt lucky to witness it, this peaceful moment between two beings from different worlds, finding something in common. When they finally stepped out of the water, Ryan helped her up the rocky edge. She looked back at the lagoon one last time, before turning toward the base. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" Ryan asked. "For showing me silence," she replied. "In my world, the sea never sleeps," he smiled. "Maybe next time we'll teach the sea to rest." Tira gave a soft sound, almost like laughter. It was the first time he had heard it. Then she walked away, toward the outpost lights, her steps leaving faint prints that shimmered under the moons. Ryan stayed behind for a few moments, looking at the water. The surface was calm again, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something beneath had stirred when Tira entered. It was faint, distant, like a whisper under the waves. Still, he told himself it was just imagination. After all, it had been a long day. He gathered his tools and started back to the base. The night wind brushed past him, carrying a faint sound, almost like the echo of her laughter blending with the water's song. And for the first time since he arrived on Varen 6, Ryan felt that the planet was not as empty as it once seemed. The next morning came with the soft hum of the colony's energy towers. A pale mist hung over the valley, glowing faintly in the light of the rising suns. Ryan woke early, his thoughts still caught on the memory of the swim. He kept thinking about the way the lagoon had glowed when Tira entered the water, how the ripples had moved almost like they were alive. He had dismissed it at first as some strange light effect, but now he wasn't so sure. Varen 6 had many oddities, and every scientist on the colony knew that the planet's ecosystem sometimes reacted to emotions, temperature, or sound. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was something deeper. Ryan stepped outside, stretching. The morning air was cold enough to make his breath visible. The outpost around him was waking up too. A few workers moved between storage sheds, and drones carried supplies toward the energy field. The place was busy, but quiet, like a small town getting ready for another long day. He walked to the workshop, found a cup of warm tea waiting in the machine dispenser, and sat near the window. From there, he could see the lagoon in the distance, reflecting the mist like a silver mirror. He wondered if Tira was awake yet. She usually started her day earlier than everyone else, taking samples or writing notes about the planet's water composition. She was dedicated to her work, almost to the point of forgetting rest. Ryan admired that about her, though he sometimes wished she would take more time to just enjoy the world around her, as if summoned by his thoughts. Tara appeared near the base gate a few minutes later. She carried her research case and wore a thin, protective suit that shimmered slightly in the light. Her steps were slow and thoughtful, as if she were listening to something only she could hear. Ryan stood up and waved. "Morning," he called. She looked up and nodded. "Morning, Ryan," he smiled. "Back to the lagoon already?" "Yes," she replied. "I need to record what the water remembers." Ryan blinked. What it remembers. Tira turned her gaze toward the horizon. "You said you do not believe water keeps memory." "I want to show you." Ryan hesitated, curiosity rising again. "All right," he said. "Let me grab my tools. I'll come with you." They walked together down the dusty trail that led to the lagoon. The mist was fading now, revealing the smooth silver-blue surface of the water. Birds with crystal-like wings fluttered overhead, singing soft metallic tones that echoed through the air. It was a calm, beautiful morning. When they reached the lagoon, Tira knelt near the edge and opened her case. Inside were several round sensors that glowed faintly. She placed one into the water, and it floated like a small lantern. Ryan crouched beside her, watching. "What do these do?" he asked. "They record vibrations," she said. "Every sound, every movement leaves an echo. In time, the echoes form patterns. I want to see what the lagoon felt last night." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "You make it sound like it's alive." Tira looked at him. "You still doubt that?" He shrugged. "I don't know. On Earth, water doesn't really think." "Maybe not think," she said, "but it listens." Her calm voice made the air feel different. Ryan watched as the sensor lights flickered. Tara pressed a few buttons on her wrist device, and a faint image projected above the lagoon. It was made of rippling lines of light, shifting like a slow-moving current. Ryan leaned closer. "What is that?" Tira studied the pattern. "The water's memory of last night, The projection showed waves forming and fading, but there was something else within them, a faint pulse that repeated several times. Ryan frowned. That's when we swam, right? Yes, she said. But this pulse, it comes from something deeper. Something that reacted to us, tried to make sense of the glowing image. You think something lives down there? Perhaps not a creature, Tira said softly. Maybe the water itself. Ryan laughed quietly. You mean the lagoon is alive? She looked at him, her eyes calm. Many worlds have intelligence you cannot see. You look for faces and words, but life can speak in motion, in pattern, in silence. Ryan didn't know how to answer. He had seen strange things in his years off Earth, plants that grew from sound vibrations, rocks that emitted faint light when touched. But a living lake was a new thought entirely. Tira collected the sensor data and turned off the projection. I will study this, she said. But there is something else I need to test. I think the lagoon responded to my field energy. I want to measure it again, Ryan frowned. Is that safe? It is calm now, she said. If it becomes active, I will stop. Ryan sighed but nodded. All right. I'll stay close. Tira walked slowly into the water. Her feet broke the surface gently, and faint ripples spread out. The lagoon glowed slightly under her touch. She closed her eyes and extended her hand, letting the water move between her fingers. The glow grew brighter, soft and rhythmic like a heartbeat. Ryan watched carefully, ready to help if anything went wrong. After a few moments, Tira opened her eyes. It remembers more than we think, she said quietly. It is not angry. It is curious. Ryan stepped closer. Curious about what? About us, she said. About you. He blinked. Me. Tira nodded. Your presence changed the current. It has not felt a human touch before. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck, unsure what to say. Guess I made an impression. She gave a small smile. Yes, a gentle one. They stayed near the lagoon for several hours, taking readings and recording data. Ryan found himself asking endless questions about how her instruments worked, and Tira answered each one patiently. Despite her calm nature, there was a quiet excitement in her voice whenever she spoke about her research. It was the kind of passion Ryan understood. Well, the joy of discovery. By noon, the suns had risen high, and the air grew warm. Ryan sat under a tree while Tira examined one of her water samples. She dipped a thin glass rod into it and watched as faint rings of light spread through the liquid. What does that mean? He asked. The water is changing, she said. It is adapting to us. Adapting. He repeated like, learning? In a way, she said, it is balancing itself. When I entered last night, it resisted my field. Now, it is adjusting, as if it wants harmony. Ryan watched her quietly. That's incredible. You sound surprised. I am, he admitted. Humans spend years trying to build machines that learn this fast, and you're saying the water's doing it on its own? Tira closed her sample container carefully. Life does not need metal to learn. It needs time and contact. Her words stayed with him. As the day passed, he began noticing things he hadn't before, the gentle movement of air near the lagoon, the faint vibration under the soil, even the rhythm of their footsteps as they walked back to the base. It was as if the whole planet was quietly breathing, alive in ways science hadn't yet named. Later that evening, they sat outside the workshop, reviewing the data on a shared screen. The graphs showed the same pulse from the water again, but stronger now, more defined. Ryan pointed at it. It's growing. Yes, Tira said softly. It is reaching out. Do you think it's dangerous? I don't feel danger, she said. Only awareness. Perhaps it wants to understand what we are. Ryan leaned back, thoughtful. Then we should let it, carefully. They shared a quiet moment, the sounds of the outpost filling the background, the hum of drones, the wind through the towers, distant voices. It felt peaceful again, yet beneath that peace was a subtle tension, like the calm before a revelation. When night came, Ryan found himself walking toward the lagoon again. He didn't know why. Maybe curiosity, maybe restlessness. The moons hung low, their reflections stretching across the still water. He crouched near the edge, tossing a pebble in. The ripples spread wider than he expected, moving in gentle waves that didn't fade as quickly as they should have. They moved like something responding to him. Ryan smiled faintly. "Hey there," he whispered. "You really are listening, aren't you?" Behind him, soft footsteps approached. "You should not speak to it," Tira said quietly. He turned, surprised. "Couldn't sleep either?" "No," she said. The readings kept changing. "The lagoon is active again." Ryan gestured toward the water. "You think it's reacting to me?" "Perhaps," she said, moving closer. "Or perhaps it has learned your voice." He looked back at the water, now glowing faintly again under the moonlight. "Then I guess it's saying hello." Tira stood beside him, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. "Be careful what you teach it, Ryan. Curiosity goes both ways." They stayed there for a long time, watching the living light move across the surface. The lagoon pulsed slowly, as if breathing, its rhythm matching the quiet beating of their hearts. Ryan didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing: the world around them was no longer just a place to study. It was becoming something aware, something that might soon answer back. The morning after their strange encounter with the living lagoon began quietly. The sky over Veranzix glowed pale blue, and thin clouds drifted like slow-moving ships. The colony was busy as usual, yet something felt different to Ryan. The air seemed to carry a soft vibration, a hum that wasn't there before. It was faint, almost like a whisper at the edge of hearing. Ryan walked toward the workshop, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling. Maybe he was just tired. He hadn't slept much after staying by the lagoon with Tira. He couldn't stop thinking about the way the water had responded to them, how it had pulsed gently like it understood. He kept replaying her words in his mind. Curiosity goes both ways. When he entered the lab, Tira was already there. She stood beside the analysis table, studying a floating display full of complex readings. The pale light from the screen reflected in her calm blue eyes. She looked deep in thought. "Morning," Ryan said, placing his toolkit on the bench. "Morning," she replied without looking up. Her tone was quiet, distracted. "Still studying the lagoon data?" he asked. "Yes," she said. "The pulse patterns changed again last night. They now match a rhythm close to our breathing rate." Ryan frowned. "You mean it's copying us?" "Not copying," she said, turning toward him. "Synchronizing." He rubbed his neck. "That's even stranger." Tira nodded. "The lagoon may have adjusted to our presence. I believe it is learning how to exist with us." Ryan walked to the display and looked at the patterns. The lines moved in slow, steady waves that rose and fell, almost like calm heartbeats. He had never seen anything like it. "So what do we do?" he asked. "Keep studying or report this to command." Tara considered for a moment. "If we report too soon, they might isolate the lagoon or drain it for testing. I do not wish to harm it." Ryan smiled faintly. "You're starting to sound protective." She gave a small shrug. "It is curious, not harmful. It deserves to be understood before judged." Ryan respected her view. Many scientists would have rushed to treat the lagoon as a threat, but Tira saw it as life, a part of the planet itself trying to reach out. By midday, they prepared new sensors to place around the lagoon. Ryan carried the heavy equipment, while Tira adjusted the frequencies. As they walked together, he noticed that she looked thoughtful, almost worried. "You okay?" he asked. Tira looked toward the sky. "The readings last night were not the only thing that changed. I felt something." "What kind of something?" "The water spoke in movement. It sent small waves toward the base, even though the wind was still. It wanted attention." Ryan stopped. "You think it was trying to contact us?" "Yes," she said softly. "But I do not know if it can speak in a way we understand." They reached the lagoon soon after. The water looked calm and bright under the suns, but there was a subtle shimmer beneath the surface, like energy moving below. Tira knelt near the edge and placed one of the new sensors into the water. It sank halfway, then started glowing. "Let us begin," she said. Ryan helped her position 3 more sensors around the lagoon's edge. When the setup was complete, they activated their wrist displays. The readings started coming in at once: temperature, density, motion, sound. For several minutes, everything looked normal. Then a sudden spike appeared on the screen. "What is that?" Ryan asked. Tira stared at the data. "Something large just moved below us." Ryan scanned the water. The surface rippled slightly, though there was no wind. "Could it be a creature?" "I do not think so," she said. "The movement has no fixed form. It is like the water itself is shifting." Before Ryan could respond, one of the sensors began to glow brighter. The glow spread across the water in slow, circular rings that pulsed outward. Ryan stepped back, shielding his eyes. "Tara, stay still," she said firmly. "It is reacting to our presence again." The rings of light grew larger, reaching the shore. Tara placed her palm over the surface, and the light calmed almost immediately. The water settled into gentle waves again. Ryan exhaled. "That was close." Tara's voice was calm. "It was only reaching out. It knows we are here." She looked thoughtful again, her expression unreadable. "It feels emotions. When we fear it, the light becomes wild. When we are calm, it softens." Ryan knelt beside her. "So you're saying we're part of the signal now?" "Yes," she said. "It listens to both of us." They sat there for a while, letting the lagoon return to its still rhythm. Ryan felt a strange peace wash over him. The world around them was quiet except for the faint hum of the water and the chirping of the crystal-winged birds. "Do you ever miss your home world?" Ryan asked suddenly. Tira looked at him. "Every day. But here I see something new, something my people forgot. We once believed that all water shared memory, that what touched one ocean could whisper to another. Perhaps this world remembers that truth." Ryan smiled. "You think maybe the water here remembers your oceans too?" "Perhaps," she said softly. "Or perhaps it remembers something older." As the day went on, the readings continued to change. The water temperature fluctuated, the energy patterns pulsed in new rhythms, and faint vibrations moved through the ground. It was as if the lagoon was slowly awakening, testing its voice. By late afternoon, they returned to the base to analyze the data. The screens in the lab filled with moving waves of light, shifting into shapes that almost looked like letters or symbols. "Is it trying to form patterns?" Ryan asked. Tira nodded. "Yes, it may be attempting to communicate." Ryan leaned closer. "Can you translate it?" "Not yet," she said. "But if we can map the rhythm to a language model, maybe soon." They worked for hours, matching the water's pulses to known communication structures. Ryan handled the programming while Tira adjusted the analysis filters. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. 3 repeating pulses, followed by a pause. Then another 3. "It's repeating," Ryan said. "Like a word." Tira's eyes widened slightly. "Or a name." Ryan looked at her. "Whose name?" She hesitated. "Yours." Ryan stared at her in disbelief. "You're saying the lagoon knows my name?" "The rhythm matches the sound of it when you speak," she said quietly. "It learned from last night." He didn't know what to say. The thought that the water could recognize him felt both amazing and unsettling. "So what now?" Tira looked serious. "Now we teach it." The next few days were spent in cautious communication. They played sound recordings to the lagoon's simple words like light, water, peace. In return, the lagoon pulsed with soft lights that varied in strength and rhythm. Each day, the responses became clearer. The colony's other scientists noticed the strange lights at night, but Ryan and Tira kept the details quiet. They didn't want interference until they understood what was happening. During one late evening session, Ryan stood at the edge of the lagoon while Tira recorded the pulses. The moonlight cast a silver glow on the water. "Light," Ryan said softly. The lagoon responded with a bright, gentle flash. "Water," he said. A deeper blue ripple spread across the surface. Tira smiled faintly. "It learns quickly." Ryan looked at her. "So do you." She glanced at him, her expression unreadable again, but kind. "Humans teach well when they are patient." Okay. They stayed there long after the colony lights went out, talking softly while the lagoon glowed in rhythm with their words. For a moment, the distance between human and alien felt smaller than ever. But as the night grew deeper, something changed. The light from the lagoon brightened suddenly, too intense to look at. The ground trembled slightly, and the readings on Tara's wrist device spiked. Ryan stepped back. "What's happening?" Tara's voice was steady but urgent. "It is responding to something stronger. Maybe the energy fields from the colony." The water's light began to swirl, forming spirals that reached toward the shore. It wasn't violent, but it was growing in intensity. Ryan grabbed one of the power modulators and turned it off. The lights calmed almost instantly. Tira exhaled slowly. "It is sensitive. It reacts to any change in energy." Ryan nodded. "So it's not dangerous? Just alive?" "Yes," she said. "But it is learning faster than expected. We must be careful not to overwhelm it." Ryan looked at the water one last time before they headed back to base. The surface reflected both their faces, framed by moonlight and soft ripples. He felt a strange connection, now not just to Terra, but to the world itself. Something about Varen 6 was waking up, something ancient and aware. As they walked away, Tira spoke quietly. "Ryan, do you ever wonder if we are the ones being studied?" He looked at her, then back at the glowing lagoon in the distance. "Yeah," he said. "I think we are." That night, as the outpost lights dimmed and the air grew still, the lagoon pulsed once more on its own. The rhythm was steady, patient, almost like a heartbeat. It echoed through the valley, faint but clear, as if whispering the name of the one who had first reached out to it. The night around the lagoon was calm. Stars shimmered over the water, and the air was cool and still. Ryan sat beside Tira on the rocks near the shore. The soft light from the moons touched her silver skin, giving her an almost glowing look. She was quiet, her eyes focused on the rippling surface. The strange energy that had surrounded her earlier had faded, but she still looked tense, as if afraid the water might react again. Ryan could feel her worry. He had seen that same uneasy look before in new recruits when their first experiment went wrong. He did not want her to feel unsafe because of something she could not control. He looked at the small tool bag lying beside him. Inside were energy chips, wires, and a tiny repair unit. An idea formed slowly in his mind. Maybe he could find a way to stop that energy from returning? He turned toward her and spoke softly. "Tira, I think I can help. It is not perfect, but it might stop the reaction if you want to try." Tira blinked and looked at him with uncertain eyes. "You wish to help me again after what happened?" "Of course," he said. "It is not your fault. The water on this planet is alive in a way we do not understand. Maybe your body field just confused it. If we can lower the signal, it might not respond the same way next time." Tira tilted her head slightly, as if studying his calm face. "Lower my field? That is dangerous for me. My body uses the field to keep my heart and lungs balanced. Without it, I can feel weak." "I understand," Ryan said. "That is why I will not turn it off, only reduce it a little. You will still have your strength. We just need the water to stop recognizing you as a rival." She looked back at the lagoon. Her reflection shimmered in the light. "You humans are strange," she said quietly. "You see a problem, and you fix it, even if it is not yours." Ryan smiled faintly. "Maybe that is how we survive. We keep trying until things work." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Tira gave a small nod. "All right, show me what you wish to do." Ryan opened his tool bag. He spread the small parts on a flat stone. He picked up a thin band, a piece from one of his scanning gloves. He adjusted its power chip, removed the main capacitor, and rewired the control panel so it could send a steady, low pulse. He was not sure it would work, but he had seen similar dampening tools used in radiation zones. Tay watched him with quiet curiosity. The light from the tools reflected on her silver eyes. "You build things so easily," she said. "On my world, we sing two machines to make them work. You use your hands and numbers." Ryan smiled again, his eyes focused on the small wires. "Maybe that is why we make a good team. You understand the world through feeling, and I understand it through touch and design. Between both, we can fix almost anything. After a few minutes, the device was ready. It looked simple, like a metallic bracelet with a tiny glowing crystal on its edge. He tested it on himself first. When he turned it on, a gentle hum filled the air. His skin prickled a little, but it was not painful. He turned it off and handed it to her. "Here, put it on your wrist," he said. "When you press this small crystal, it will lower the field. If you feel dizzy or weak, press it again to stop it." Tira took it carefully, as if holding something fragile. She hesitated for a moment before sliding it over her wrist. The metal adjusted itself to her shape. The soft light turned pale blue. She pressed the crystal once, and the hum began again, faint and even. She closed her eyes for a few seconds, then opened them slowly. "I feel ... lighter. The air feels strange around me, but it is not painful." Ryan nodded. "That is good. It means it is working." He checked the lagoon again. The water looked calm, its silver glow now gentle under the moons. "Do you want to try swimming again?" he asked. Tira looked uncertain. "You really believe it will be safe?" He shrugged with a smile. "I believe it is worth trying. But if you feel anything strange again, we stop immediately." Tara stood slowly. She walked toward the water, her steps quiet. She touched the surface with her toes, and the water rippled softly but did not react. Ryan watched closely. There was no flash, no sudden current. He felt a small spark of hope. Tara turned to him with a faint smile. "It seems calm." Ryan stepped beside her. "Then let us go slowly. No deep diving yet." Together they entered the lagoon. The cool water surrounded them, but this time there was no shimmer of energy or strange movement. The water accepted her presence. Tira moved carefully, her arms cutting through the surface. Ryan swam beside her, watching every small change. After a while, she began to move faster, her confidence returning. He could see her natural grace again. She spun in slow circles, the moonlight following her every motion. She looked almost free. Ryan stayed near the shallows, smiling. "You are doing great," he called. Tara laughed, a soft musical sound. "I had forgotten how peaceful water can be when it does not fear me," he nodded. "Now, it knows you are a friend." After a few minutes, they both stopped near a large rock that rose from the water. They rested there, half in and half out of the lagoon. Tira looked at the bracelet on her wrist. "You built this for me, without asking for anything in return," she said. Ryan shook his head. "That is what friends do. And besides, I did not want our swim to end with danger again." Tara's gaze softened. "Humans are different from what I learned in our archives. They said you were always looking for more land, more energy, more control, but you only wanted peace here." Ryan smiled quietly. "Maybe the archives are not wrong. We do chase many things, but sometimes we also stop and try to understand others. You taught me that, Tira." The night breeze passed gently over them. The reeds near the water made soft sounds like whispers. Above, one of the moons began to drift behind a cloud. After a while, Tira said, "When I return to my people, they will ask about humans. They will want to know if you are as unpredictable as they think. I will tell them you are patient, curious, and brave." "You did not run when the water turned against me," Ryan chuckled softly. "You can also tell them that humans are bad at sitting still when they think they can fix something." Tira smiled in return. "I will tell them that too." For a few minutes, they just watched the ripples. The water glowed faintly, mirroring the stars. It was hard to believe that only hours earlier it had nearly attacked them. Now it felt like a part of the world had accepted them both. Ryan finally spoke again. "You know, I think this planet wants to understand us just like we want to understand it. Maybe the water only reacted because it remembered something from before?" Tira tilted her head. "Before? Maybe long ago a race like yours came here. Maybe something bad happened, and the water kept that memory. You said your kind connects through energy. Maybe it does too." Tara's expression turned thoughtful. That would explain the reaction. Memories in living water. My world has rivers that remember songs. Perhaps this one remembers storms. She placed her hand gently on the surface, and the glow under her palm turned soft and blue. The color no longer shifted violently. It stayed steady, calm. She smiled at the reflection. Maybe now it knows we bring no harm. Ryan nodded slowly. Maybe now it knows you. They left the water a little before midnight. Tira still wore the dampener on her wrist. She said she wanted to keep it for a while. Ryan packed his tools but did not take the bracelet back. When they reached their small base near the ridge, the air was quiet. The power lights from their camp flickered softly. Ryan sat by the console, entering data about the incident. He described everything in simple detail: the reaction, the change, the field adjustment. It was just a report for their command, but in his mind, it felt like something more. He glanced toward Tira. She stood by the window, watching the lagoon from afar. Her expression was peaceful now, not fearful. He was glad for that. Before turning off the console, he added one final note. The local life seems capable of recognizing intent. Further study recommended. Cooperation with non-human specialists strongly advised. As the words appeared on the screen, Ryan felt tired but content. The day had started as a simple idea for a swim, yet it had turned into something far more important. When he looked again at Tara, she turned slightly and met his eyes. She said quietly, "You have changed how I see humans." Ryan smiled. "And you have changed how I see everything else." The night deepened around them, calm and steady. The soft hum from the lagoon reached their base like a heartbeat. Somewhere under that water, the memory of fear had turned into the memory of trust. The morning sun rose slowly over Varen 6, painting the sky in pale oranges and soft blues. The colony hummed with activity as humans and alien specialists moved between buildings, vehicles, and research equipment. But for Ryan and Tara, the day held a different kind of excitement. Last night, the lagoon had responded calmly to their presence, its energy now steady. Yet both of them knew that today might reveal something new, something unexpected. Ryan left his quarters early, carrying a small bag with sensor tools and his tablet. As he approached the lagoon, he could see Tara already there, kneeling at the water's edge. Her reflection shimmered, catching the first light of the sun's. The bracelet he had made for her glowed faintly on her wrist, its low hum merging with the soft energy of the water. "Good morning," he called gently. Tira looked up, her calm blue eyes meeting his. "Good morning, Ryan. I hope you slept well." "I did," he said. "Though I kept thinking about the lagoon. I wonder what it wants to show us today." Tira's lips curved in a faint smile. "Patience. The lagoon does not hurry. It only responds when it is ready." They set up the sensors quickly, placing them evenly around the lagoon. Ryan activated his tablet to record every small variation in temperature, energy, and motion. Tira adjusted the sensitivity of her instruments, ensuring that even the smallest pulse of the water could be measured. For a long time, nothing unusual happened. The water remained calm, a mirror to the sky above. Then, a faint shimmer appeared beneath the surface. Ryan leaned closer, squinting. "Do you see that?" Tira nodded slowly. "Yes, the energy is moving differently today. It is not random." As they watched, patterns began to form on the water. Gentle spirals of light emerged, swirling gracefully. The movement was slow, deliberate, almost like a dance. Ryan felt a strange thrill. The lagoon was communicating again, but this time it seemed purposeful. "What do you think it wants?" Ryan asked softly. Tira placed her hand near the water. The glow under her palm responded, intensifying slightly. "It wants recognition. Perhaps it wishes us to understand it fully, not just observe." Ryan hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "All right, let's try something." He carefully stepped into the shallow edge of the lagoon, letting the water surround him. It was cool but not uncomfortable. Tara joined him, moving with fluid grace. The water pulsed gently around them, soft and rhythmic. Ryan extended his hand slowly, and the lagoon's glow shifted in response. He tried simple movements, spreading his fingers, tracing small circles in the water. The energy followed him, echoing each gesture. Tara mirrored his actions, and soon their movements combined, creating a pattern together. The lagoon responded immediately, its pulses growing brighter and forming clear, circular ripples that expanded across the surface. "It is learning faster than yesterday," Tira said, her voice filled with wonder. "It recognizes our intent now." Ryan smiled faintly. "We're teaching it how to understand us." For hours, they experimented with simple gestures, small changes in energy, and soft-spoken words. The lagoon's responses became increasingly complex. Spirals turned into arcs, arcs into flowing waves. The pulses almost seemed musical, like a melody without sound. Both Ryan and Tira felt a deep connection growing, not just between themselves and the water, but also between each other. At one point Ryan paused, noticing the way Tira moved. Her motions were elegant, precise, yet full of curiosity. She looked toward him, her expression soft. "You have patience. It is rare among humans," he chuckled quietly. "I learned from necessity. Out here, mistakes can be costly, but with you, I feel like I'm learning something bigger than just repairs or engineering." Tira tilted her head, her eyes reflecting the lagoon's light. "What is bigger?" "Understanding," Ryan said simply. "Not just machines or energy or even this water. Understanding how to connect with something completely different from yourself. That's what this is teaching me." She studied him for a long moment. Then she placed her hand gently on the water, guiding a pulse that spread across the surface. The light spiraled outward, meeting Ryan's gestures. "Yes," she said. "This is connection. Perhaps this is what my people seek in all water." They continued their synchronized interaction for the rest of the afternoon. The lagoon's energy patterns became more intricate, almost forming recognizable shapes within the pulses. Ryan tried to interpret them, but the meaning remained elusive. Tira, however, seemed to feel the intent behind each movement. She whispered softly, "It is showing us stories. Ancient stories of the planet, perhaps older than humans, or even my people." Ryan listened carefully. "Do you think we can understand them?" "Perhaps in time," she said. "Patience is needed, and careful observation. But we are closer than any who came before." As the suns began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the valley, they decided to rest at the edge of the lagoon. Ryan leaned against a smooth stone, while Tira floated nearby, letting the water carry her slightly. They were silent for several minutes, watching the soft light dance across the surface. "Ryan," Tira said finally, "you are different from what I expected." He looked at her curiously. "Different how?" "You approach problems with calm and thought. You do not rush. And yet you are brave enough to act when it is needed. Your kind does not always balance these qualities, but you do." Ryan smiled faintly. "I guess I had a good teacher." Tara glanced at him. "Perhaps we are teaching each other." The lagoon pulsed beneath them, its gentle energy flowing like a heartbeat. Ryan reached out and let his hand hover above the water, feeling the soft vibration. The glow responded immediately, following the motion of his fingers. Tira mirrored him, and soon they were moving together again, tracing patterns that spiraled, curved, and shifted in harmony. It was then that Ryan realized something. The lagoon was not just reacting to them individually, it was responding to their connection. The energy seemed to recognize collaboration, trust, and friendship. Every pulse grew brighter, every spiral more defined. The water had learned to feel the intent behind two beings working together. Tira noticed it too. "It is remarkable," she said softly. "It has learned not only from me, but from the two of us together. It understands cooperation." Ryan nodded, feeling a sense of pride and wonder. "This is more than we imagined. It's like the planet itself is teaching us something about life, about connection." They continued until the moons rose high, filling the lagoon with silver light. Then Tara spoke again, quieter this time. "Ryan, I think it knows our names now. It responds to each of us individually and to us together. It recognizes trust." He looked at her astonished. "So it remembers everything? All of last night, today. It keeps learning?" "Yes," she said, her tone calm but filled with awe. "And it will continue to grow. The water of this world is alive, and it will not forget what we have shown it." Right. Ryan took a deep breath, feeling the weight and wonder of her words. "Then we've done more than swim," he said. "We've become part of its memory." Tira nodded, her gaze returning to the glowing water. "Yes, and it is teaching us something as well. That understanding, patience, and respect can bridge worlds. Even between human and alien, water and land, fear and trust." Ryan smiled faintly. "I never thought a simple swim could lead to all this." Tira glanced at him, her expression softening. "Nothing is simple when life is alive and aware. You will learn that, Ryan. Perhaps we have both learned it tonight." The two of them stayed by the lagoon long into the night, moving together gently in the water, letting the light pulse and flow around them. Every ripple, every glow seemed to reflect a shared understanding, a new connection that went beyond species, planet, or language. It was a bond created through curiosity, patience, and trust. When they finally left the water, the lagoon remained calm, its surface glowing faintly under the moons. Ryan helped Tira to the shore, ensuring she felt steady. She looked back at the water one last time. "Thank you, Ryan," she said quietly, "for trust, for guidance, and for patience. You have made the water see us differently," Ryan smiled. "And you've made me see this world differently too. I'll never forget it." They walked back to the base together, the bracelet on her wrist still glowing softly, a symbol of both safety and trust. The night air was calm, carrying the faint hum of the lagoon across the valley. Ryan looked toward it one last time before entering the outpost. The water reflected both moons and stars, as if carrying memories of the day, the night, and the beings who had touched it with respect and curiosity in the following days. Their work continued, but the lagoon no longer reacted violently. Instead, it pulsed gently, a quiet rhythm of life that welcomed them. The colony noticed the strange glow at night, but Ryan and Tira remained patient. Knowing the lagoon had become more than just a body of water, it was a living, learning presence. And they had become part of its memory. Ryan knew one thing for certain: humanity had reached far across the stars. But the greatest discoveries were not always in machines or distant worlds. Sometimes they were in the quiet recognition of life, patience, and trust. And on Veron 6, under the twin suns and twin moons, that understanding had grown into something beautiful, lasting, and deeply human.